It'll always feel like yesterday. The Twin is a Shudder original written and directed by J.C. Doller, who's worked on shorts and was the editor on films like Cabin Girl. And I did a review of Cabin Girl when it first came out. You can find it on the Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist. And this was also written by Paul Peterson, who has worked on short films of his own and a film called Days of Daisy, Daisy, Bring a Toothbrush for Me. You can expect a 2001 A Space Odyssey retro review at some point, perhaps in just a couple weeks. It depends on my work schedule and how much free time I have. So this features Logan Donovan as Nicholas, and after an opening scene that basically sets the, scene and tone to the point that it practically tips its hand as to how the whole film's going to go and what the theme is, to the point it is slapping you in the goddamn face constantly, saying, this is the theme. You are going to understand it. Anyway, the whole point is that Nicholas now, as an adult, has a wife, Charlie, played by the incredibly gifted and gorgeous Alexa Palladino, who, my God, with respect, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. She goes off to work because you need two incomes to survive in this whirlwind economy as it is. And that leaves Nicholas to watch his kid. Well, unfortunately, if you're not watching your child every single second of every single day, something can happen. Basically, the son ends up dying. Nicholas is stricken with grief to the point that we necessitate a 1-month jump. I'm keeping it as spoiler-free and as vague as possible. And now, he is living in his grandmother's place, which actually was the setting for the opening sequence. And basically him and Charlie are just trying to understand this grief and go through it and everything in their own way. And really it just focuses on Nicholas because he feels responsible. Naturally, it's not his fault. It is not his fault, but that is something that any parent that loses a child would feel. They would have that grief eat at them. It would be terrible. And it would be 1,000% just something that would be all-consuming. So enter Dr. Hugh Beaumont. Actually, Dr. Beaumont, but Hugh Beaumont being a doctor would actually be incredible, given the fact that Hugh Beaumont has been dead for about 50 fucking years, I think. So he is played by Robert. How would you like to take a trip down Long Street? That's not his actual name, but that is something from an MST3K or a Riff Tracks. Actually, I think it might be a Riff Tracks. And I will say, How Would You Like to Take a Trip Down Long Street actually does a pretty good job. I will have to probably just shorten it to Long Street because it will get very wordy. He does fine. He also tells Nicholas that trauma is not easy to deal with. And basically from there, trauma, grief, trauma chameleon. And yeah, it doesn't really do anything to not tip its hand back. It shows you its hand early on. And while it certainly has a nice theme, this is also agonizingly boring. I mean, I'm sorry. It was sort of well shot, but relied too much on jump scares. It didn't really give the actors enough to do to justify the 103 minute runtime when about 80 minutes probably would have sufficed. You could have cut out a few things that didn't work. You could have cut out a few things that were just more of the goddamn same because the setup was what it was. We have a neighbor, Shelby. That actress does fine. She sets the scene a little bit. And also the writer, director, and the other writer, JC and Paul, voice a couple of characters on this Firefly Funhouse mixed with the Wiggles, mixed with Pennywise from goddamn It. This weird children's show that basically you have to expect the children to be sucked into the whole goddamn thing like they're Mr. Crockett. And if you get that, that's a real deep cut because that is a Hulu original that nobody probably remembers. But I did a review of that as well. And from there, you have a movie that, yes, is just more trauma stuff and trauma-based horror, which isn't bad, but the thing is, I've seen it done better, and I've also seen way too many of those, and this ended up just wearing me down to the point that I just didn't care. While I appreciate what they were trying to do, this is just more of the same, and could have accomplished its, meaning, its point in, 20 less minutes. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers. I'm not going to waste any time here. Let's go to the opening scene. Always best to start in the beginning, or otherwise it gets confusing. So, basically, this describes, we see at the very beginning something called fetch. Yes, that's so fetch. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It isn't going to happen. I wanted to start with that, but I didn't want to go too far deep for those that don't really know that much about this. There was a book called The Doctor's Fetch. which just sounds positively perverted. Basically, it's a supernatural double or apparition of a living person, often a manifestation of impending death. Basically, it is grief and it is stuff coming for you, and if you do not overcome this, if you give in to the dark voices and thoughts, you end up basically taking your own life. That is never the answer, by the way. I just want to say that. I'm just saying that's basically what they describe. So, young Nicky is locking himself in his room. There are 2 doors. Unless one of those doors leads to a closet, that seems excessive to have 2 doors that close to each other. But his grandmother, who's actually not his grandmother, is saying, Nicky, I want to show you something. And the grandma basically pulls him in. And, yeah, then we see the Doctor's Fetch book on there. And that kid show, get away. There's a bear, the rabbit. And he, there's like pumpkins all around. Nicholas does some painting. I noted, oh my goodness, Charlie, aka Alexa, is freaking gorgeous. Good grief, she's gorgeous. And, well, he ends up taking the goddamn stairs, the son does. Instead of getting, like, slip-resistant socks and not having them wear shoes in the goddamn house, he trips over his own laces. Now, I mean, just whatever. It's fine. Kid falls. They don't actually show the kid falling. It's more the traumatizing stuff. And what I like, I will say I like this. I like the fact that it was bright and sunny. In the instant it was obvious the sun was dead, things took a more washed out feel. That was a nice little creative touch. I will say that. Problem is, the movie just didn't end up having much of a creative touch after that. So, he is despondent. Both parents are distraught. He then tried to basically take his own life. Nicholas did, because he was so stricken with grief, but he doesn't remember doing it. So now, 1 month later, Nick did, by the way, get the deed to his grandmother's place because his grandmother died before this, and now he's going to live there, and oh yeah, Charlie's not going to be there with him because she can't be around him. Because she's still processing the grief and everything. And also, I hate to say, it's kind of a little bitchy thing. He does end up saying he's sorry a lot. Dr. Hugh Beaumont shows up. How would you like to take a trip down Long Street? And she's leaving him, leaves the ring in his hand. So he ends up trying to paint, but the thing is he's trying to paint the sun. He can't remember the sun's face. He's mentally blocked it out. And Dr. Hugh Beaumont lost his daughter 3 years ago. She took her own life. Obviously, this is why he does therapy and stuff like that and still does it. And there's this one grocery store that I know it kind of looks like this Red Apple store that used to be up in, it is still up in Granite Falls, which is a town that, it's definitely a town. It is very much a town where they are trying to build it up, and it is literally like about as old west as you can get. Like, there's one big store, there's a pharmacy, and then there's a couple gas stations, and that's it. So he keeps hearing and seeing things. He keeps thinking that people are telling him he made a mistake and this kind of stuff because it's his own grief. These jump scares suck. It's all your fault. There's these moving of boxes of books and stuff like that. And I'm clipping through a lot of this because really it is just Logan Donovan doing his thing. And he does fine. I will say he plays the role fine, but there's not enough meat on this goddamn bone to justify the runtime. So, he was cleaning up the blood on the floor after his son fell, and it's because, it was his mess. And Dr. Hugh Beaumont and him share trauma and everything. It'll always feel like yesterday. Demons are like bullies. That's said later. And the doctor basically says to Charlie, is textbook schizophrenia. We got to get him through this. Now, they are literally beating you over the head with this stuff because I guess they either think that the viewers are idiots or they were forgetting what their story was. But it's a simple story, so I don't necessarily get it. And they got to help him. And yes, you should reach out to the people that you know are grieving and do your best and everything. Don't overreach, but try to reach and help. But the movie's not even heavy-handed. The movie is just like, it is hitting you in the head constantly about this stuff, but nevertheless. So, Dr. Hugh Beaumont comes over and gives him stuff to sleep, and then we see something that was referenced earlier. Hugh Beaumont doing his his hypnotist stuff with a watch and keeps saying you are in control. He's trying to get him through his grief. Charlie visits him. We get it. It's a manifestation of grief. It's getting old. Move on. Shelby's a neighbor that weighs in on a few things. Talks about the grandma. Talks about him running over. And all this crazy shit going on. And then, with about 20 minutes left, he's popping and snapping and doing this stuff because the grief's really trying to take a hold of him. And then the doctor basically says, oh yeah, here's the thing. Oh, you want to take your own life? Fine, we're going to put the chair here and we're going to see what you want to do. And it's a way to hypnotize him and basically get this grief out of the way. He finally gets the grief out of the way because he can't remember his son's face, but this twin grief demon thing is... And he finally takes the noose, puts it around the grief demon, and throws it over the goddamn, side, the railing and everything. And that's it. Yeah, it's a railing kill. No Cameron Mitchell around. Then again, he's been dead for like 31 years. But we basically get him going through the grief and how demons can be beat. He is able to complete the painting and remember his son's face. And there you go. And that is the twin. Did I skip through a lot? Yeah, because you know what? There really wasn't a lot. Once you get to the spoiler section, you do a little setup, you get this, you're not going to find a lot to sink your teeth into. It's not the worst movie I've seen, but the worst, indictment of a horror movie, any kind of horror movie, whether it's suspense, psychological horror, is that it's boring. And this is boring. And that's the worst. It's worse than a movie being bad, in my personal opinion. Or just as bad as a movie being bad. So F, unfortunately. Sorry. Despite some positives, despite a few neat little camera tricks, and the performances not being awful, there's just not enough to this. So yeah, F. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and until we fall down the stairs carrying a pumpkin again, happy trails to you.